Once again, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Leo Valente. I am a UC solutions engineer with VMware. I have been working with healthcare specifically for the past 4 years. And since we are officially in the fall season, and with that, all the things that come with it, flu shots, immunity boosters, we felt would be a good time to talk to you about the security and the immunity of your mobile devices, and introduce to you our new product in the Workspace ONE suite, Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense, and that's what we are going to be doing here for the next hour. I have with me three other colleagues here today as hosts and panelists, Spencer, Kelby, and John, and I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Spencer, please.
Yeah, hey everybody, good morning. My name is Spencer Smith. I'm an EUC specialist for healthcare out of the Southeast. So I cover a lot of our Southeast customers. I've been with VMware for about 5 years now. So excited you guys are all joined here, and feel free to ask questions in the chat. Kelby and I will be answering those. And yeah, look forward to talking to you guys.
And Kelby?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelby Mahoney. I cover the Northeast territory, same kind of position that Spencer does. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate the time.
And John?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. This is John Etheridge. I'm based out of Atlanta. I've been with VMware for a little over 10 years now, dating back to the AirWatch days. Now I support our healthcare team. So Spencer and Kelby, when it comes to the latest addition to the Workspace ONE platform, which is mobile threat defense. So thank you all for your time today.
Yeah, and Leo, I just wanted to add too, if you're not healthcare, no big deal. Just because we've got healthcare specialists, everything we're going to do today is applicable to everyone across the board. So excited you guys are all here.
Absolutely. I think for Spencer to bring that point up. So what we're going to be doing here for the next hour. So this is a technical presentation on the product and the status of the industry when it comes to mobile security. What you see, what you get, how the features we're going to be talking about here today are available in the product. So there won't be any marketing slides. And we'd like to hear from you as well. Feel free to add in the Q&A any kind of questions you have or kind of comments, suggestions. There will be a few demos and a lot of technical information about how to deploy the product, how to integrate Workspace ONE UEM. And as Spencer mentioned earlier, we're going to be monitoring the Q&A queue. So if you have any questions, please add them. We're going to try to answer them live during the presentation. And if for some reason there is any question that we cannot provide you the answer right away, we're definitely going to take it and research it and reply back to you offline. But with that, I'll pass it on to John now. John will be talking a little bit about the product, most of the defense features, and also the status of the industry. After that, I'll be following up with presenting a few demos to you, and then really going into the technical details of the product and the steps to integrate it with UEM. So without further ado, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Leo. And if you want to go ahead and click forward. So as Leo mentioned, I will be providing kind of a brief overview of mobile threat defense for those that may or may not be familiar with mobile threat defense. It is the most recent addition to the Workspace ONE platform, as I'd call it, somewhat of a soft release in May of last year, followed by some really exciting feature enhancements this summer back in June as well when it comes to phishing and content protection capabilities. So I am going to provide a little bit of an overview of some examples of mobile threats that many end users and organizations deal with on a daily basis, and kind of talk about some of the other things we're seeing when it comes to mobile threats across email, text messages, software vulnerabilities, etc. Also kind of touch on how this integrates and ties in with the Workspace ONE UEM platform, along with our Workspace ONE Intelligence solution as well, which provides robust automation and remediation and analytics, etc. But so yeah, and then what I'll be doing is hand it over to Leo, as he noted, to dive in a little bit deeper on the demo side, talk about the deployment and integrations of those additional, features within inside the Workspace ONE platform. So to go ahead and get started, so just to quickly touch on what we call the mobile risk matrix. So we really see risks when it comes to mobile in 4 different categories: device-based risks, application-based risks, network-based risks, and web and content risks as well. So your typical device-based risks are usually kind of led by poor configurations on the device, which may be, lacking encryption, lacking a PIN code, passcode on a device, have side-loaded applications that may be on there as well. Other things like vulnerable operating systems. So for those that have kind of been paying attention to some of the most recent Apple OS updates that have been kind of critical security updates that have been released over the past couple of months, that's been in the news. Network-based risks as well. So those are things like machine in the middle attacks, things like when a device may auto join a network that may not be secure and meet, security standards, that can then kind of lead to other vulnerabilities and risks for that particular user and device. And then the big one is really going to be around the web and content. So I'm sure everyone on the line today is very familiar with, phishing text messages, phishing emails, things like that. That's definitely by far the number one threat vector when it comes to mobile devices. Those are phishing links can be embedded inside of applications. They're getting very creative about making their emails and text messages look very realistic, whether they're pretending to be from the United States Postal Service, letting you know, hey, you have a package ready for pickup that wasn't able to be delivered. Click this link to sign into your account, blah, blah, blah. Another one too, we're probably all familiar with, are the Amazon and Netflix emails saying, hey, your account has been locked out, follow this link to proceed to reset your account. So, and to get into some of those examples as Leo is building the slide out. So the first 2 here, those are examples of kind of your traditional phishing text message, whether it's, from pretending to be an organization like Amazon, letting you know that your account has been locked out, follow this link to recover it. Or, I know I've been receiving text messages from unknown numbers that may have URLs and files embedded into it. That can lead to multiple, different vulnerabilities as well on that particular device, and also attempt to steal credentials. When it comes to browsing, I'm sure we've all seen these different pop-ups when leveraging a browser, whether that's Safari or Chrome, basically saying, hey, you need to download this particular application, otherwise your device is going to run slower, your battery will drain quicker. So that can, again, lead to the installation of vulnerable applications on an end user's device. Other pop-ups claiming to, say, hey, you've won an award or reward, whether that be, hey, here's a free gift card to Amazon, gift card to another store, for example. That can be very tricky. In the middle there, so another trend we're seeing, and this has actually happened internally at VMware as well, is bad actors that are getting access to end users' phone numbers as well as their personal information, so first and last name, pretending to be someone they're not. So in this example you see here in the middle for Cash, it's saying, hey, Cash, let me know if you get my text. This is Raghuram, who's the CEO at VMware. So we've heard of situations where, this leads to saying, hey, please send me, I've lost my wallet, I'm traveling, please send me X amount of money, go buy these specific gift cards. So that's definitely a big trend where there's, a real live body on the other side of that iMessage reaching out to these employees, pretending to be an executive or someone else inside the organization. Another big trend that I do want to kind of park and focus on is around QR codes. So this is an example that I took from a news article just here in Atlanta, where they discovered in a parking garage where the payment QR code had been pasted over by a fake QR code that basically led to a phishing site. So basically when an end user pulls out their phone, scans that QR code, they're basically taken to a fake payment portal where they're asked to plug in their credentials for that specific, payment or parking provider, and then therefore their credentials are stolen through that phishing site that has occurred. Leo, if you want to click out again Fake DocuSign documents are very popular as well. If we're basically saying, hey, John, you have a document requiring your action. Please click here to review this document. Same thing. Once you click on that, it's going to take you to a fake DocuSign website where basically your credentials for your organization are going to therefore then be stolen by trying to access that fake DocuSign document. And then quickly going back to QR codes, another trend that we're seeing related to that as well is QR codes that are being sent via email. So we're working, we've heard from other organizations as well where end users have been receiving QR code that basically says your messages are on hold. We'll have a nice icon of the organization that you work for, and it basically has a QR code in there that basically says scan this QR code and re-authenticate in order to resume the delivery of your email messages. One big thing around that is most traditional email security clients are not picking up on those at all because it's essentially an image embedded in that email. And then it's directing end users to pick up their mobile phones. It specifically says use your phone to scan this QR code. And more than likely, those mobile devices have zero security on there to then inspect that URL that's embedded in that QR code. So that is a very big trend that we're seeing right now, is bad actors that are leveraging QR codes basically to bypass email security clients and then drive end users to pick up their phone to access that malicious link that's been sent to them. And then if you look at this slide here that Leo's popped up, so to kind of go through the devices and number of threats that have been detected over the years. So this is information that has been provided to us by Lookout, who we've partnered with for this venture when it comes to mobile threat defense. Lookout is the leader in the mobile threat defense and mobile security space. And based off their data here, as you'll see across iOS and Android, the number of threats that they are detecting is growing year over year. So this chart is from April of 2019 to April of this year. And as you'll see, that is increasing year over year with, of course, phishing and different web vulnerabilities being one of the top threats when it comes to mobile security. So as I talked about, these bad actors are making their phishing and malicious text messages and emails look more and more realistic. They're leveraging QR codes to bypass, existing security solutions that are in place. And this is definitely a trend that's not slowing down. Leo, next slide, please. So what we've done, as I mentioned, we've partnered with Lookout, the leader in the mobile security space, and we have essentially embedded their technology and SDK into the Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub application. So for those familiar with Workspace ONE, the Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub is that central point for end users to enroll their device, access applications that they may use on a daily basis with single sign-on, for example. But basically what we have done is, again, embedded that into the Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub application, which really allows or leads to two different things. One is a simplified deployment from a management and IT perspective. We're basically then leveraging our existing Workspace ONE footprint to auto enroll and auto activate mobile threat defense within our fleet on their devices without really any end user interaction. So this essentially just requires an enrollment code that gets pushed down through the Intelligent Hub application. As soon as that is received on the device is then going to start immediately looking for any threats present on the device and any threats that may pop up in the future on that device as well. So that is of course one big benefit. The second one is higher adoption rates. So by having that.
Sorry to interrupt before we move on to the second. Bo, I saw you raise your hand. Do you have a question? I can allow you to talk. Let us know. No, clicked by mistake. Perfect. Okay, go ahead and continue, John.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Kelby. So the second point is higher adoption rates. So as I mentioned, by leveraging Workspace ONE and the device management powered by Workspace ONE, those devices are going to silently activate with mobile threat defense. So there's zero interaction required by the end users in order to get it up and running. One of the challenges we've seen from other customers that have been leveraging third-party mobile security tools is that their adoption rates are very low because they have a hard time with the end users actually opening up that third-party security application, accepting the terms, and getting it activated on that particular device. So by keeping this all inside of the Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub application, it's simple to deploy, and you're going to have much higher adoption rates with your end users and your existing mobile fleet and any new devices that may come into your environment as well. Leo, next slide, please. And Leo, you can go ahead and build this out. Should be just 4 clicks there. So going back to the 4 different vectors I talked about on one of the earlier slides, when it comes to the 4 categories, 4 vectors. So Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense does provide protection across these different vectors. So application-based risks, so being able to scan and identify any applications that may have any vulnerabilities currently embedded inside that particular applications, any risky permissions that application may ask for. So things like access to microphone, access to camera, things like that. There's been news stories in the past about how some applications have led to bad actors hacking into those apps to be able to listen in on end users or turn on the video camera, for example. So we're able to inspect those applications to make sure there isn't any spyware or any riskware associated with those particular applications, make sure it hasn't been side-loaded on that device and, therefore, bypass the application store for that particular operating system. Network-based risks as well. So, we talked about the auto joining on just using iOS, for example. If that were to happen, Mobile Threat Defense can pick up saying, hey, I'm connected here to a pretty risky or vulnerable network. I can therefore push down a notification to that device saying, hey, we need to disconnect from this network. It's been identified as potentially a machine in the middle attack or any other type of vulnerability associated with that. Being able to identify device-based risks as well. So there is a teeny bit of overlap when it comes to your traditional mobile device management capabilities that Workspace ONE UEM provides today. But MTD does provide advanced root and jailbreak detection, provides deep insights and analytics on the operating systems across your mobile fleet. So with a lot of the critical patches that have been pushed out recently, just again using iOS for example, we can use this as another form or method to push a notification down to my end user saying, hey, it's time to upgrade and update your operating system on your mobile device. And then from a web and content perspective, so this is where we provide protection across phishing emails, phishing attempts that may be through messages as well, any third-party applications. We're not really too concerned at all about which specific application or method that a phishing or malicious link may be accessed, but we're going to be basically inspecting that traffic coming from, whether it's a native messaging app, native email client, or again, any third-party applications, messaging applications. We're going to be inspecting that traffic to make sure it's safe and whether or not to allow our end user to proceed forward with that destination.
To proceed forward here?
Yes, you can go ahead.
There was a question in the chat, John. For Android, does this only protect the work profile, or does it touch personal as well? Not sure if deployed via MDM, it can only protect work only.
So that's a great question by Ryan and Leo. I'll provide an answer, and if you have any additional commentary, you can as well. So today it does provide protection only on the work profile. We are one of our roadmap items for this quarter is for dual enrollment on Android to protect work and the personal profile of Android. So today it does provide protection on the work profile. The personal side is coming this quarter.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I was going to mention that something we're working on, but you got it. Thank you.
Yep. And then in addition to that too, Ryan, just so if that is a feature you are looking for today, that would be the case where you could leverage the Lookout for Work application. That is supported today through the Lookout for Work app, not through the Workspace ONE integrated intelligent hub version of MTD. So that is available through the Lookout for Work app, but that is coming here this quarter. And Leo, it looks like we got another question if you want to take that one.
So doing enrollment is what John was mentioning, where the device it's corporate owned but personal activated, where you have a work profile. So we have a work partition in Android, and you have a personal partition. So you effectively have two Play stores, one for personal use and one with a little suitcase that shows there's a corporate Play store, and basically those corporate apps and the personal apps are effectively separated, segregated in the device. Right now, we can protect the corporate side of the device, and we're working on be able to do the personal side as well. So that's what dual enrollment means. Bob.
Thanks, Leo.
No problem. Any other questions, please keep bringing them up and we'll try to answer live. But thank you for those.
Perfect. So to dive in a little bit deeper in the phishing and content protection. So that is one of the most recent additions, as I kind of briefly touched on at the beginning of the call. In June, we announced the integrated phishing and content protection capabilities with Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub and leveraging our Tunnel application. So essentially, all phishing and content protection is going to be, and traffic associated with that is going to go through our Workspace ONE Tunnel application. So basically, what that does is leverages a VPN or DNS profile. Gets pushed out to the devices as well. And of course, since you would be leveraging mobile device management with Workspace ONE, that leads to zero touch activation, does not require any user action on their end as well. And basically what Tunnel does is it leverages the DNS information from the mobile threat defense server to basically implement the protections that are set in place by administrators when it comes to phishing and content protection capabilities. So we do categorize the phishing and content protection across 4 different categories. So we have a phishing category, malicious, unauthorized content, and then deny listed as well. So there's a lot of different flexible options and configurations administrators can apply to create an allow list, create a deny list for certain domains and sites that may or may not be allowed by your end users. But then, not only are you allowing, preventing phishing and malicious content from being accessed on your mobile devices or mobile devices that are leveraging Workspace ONE in your environment as well, but you're also allowed to provide protections across what we call unauthorized content. So anything like adult websites, violent websites, gambling websites, for example. There's many different configurations and policies that you can enforce on those mobile devices when it comes to the phishing and content protection capabilities. So one of the key benefits of leveraging Workspace ONE Tunnel, and I think this actually may be on the next slide, is that it prevents any sort of conflict with any other VPNs that may be on the device today or in the future. I know that's one of the challenges with many other third-party mobile security solutions as well, is that you can only have one VPN live and running. And many of those third-party mobile security solutions do require a full device VPN in order to inspect that traffic. So therefore, if there's another VPN on that particular device, there's going to be a conflict between those two, which leads to either the phishing and content protection being disabled or the VPN, having issues and being disabled as well. So that is one of the key benefits of leveraging the tunnel to inspect that traffic. Leo?
Yeah, let me just add one point there, just in expanding on what you mentioned, John, there is absolutely so. We're using the tunnel here because tunnel was already set up to inspect traffic. So using tunnel to actually capture that DNS resolution request. And we're going to show in the very next slide the flow of how PCP works, phishing content protection works. And so we get that traffic and send to the lookout network to verify if that domain is valid or if that domain is indeed malicious. So, but we don't set a VPN for that. We just felt that the code's already there in tunnel. There was no point in duplicate that code base in Hub, so we left Hub as lightweight as possible and just leverage the tunnel for that tunnel app. You can, as John was mentioning, as long as you're using the UAG and VMware tunnel for your VPN needs, or using VMware SASE and you're using one of our points of presence, you absolutely can use VMware Tunnel to set up VPN networks together with phishing and content protection. So as long as it's the same VMware Tunnel that's doing your VPN network and your VPN tunneling, you can use both VPN and PCP together. John, back to you.
Thanks.
Oh, and the
we can-
next, maybe I can get the next slide here. I can take it.
Go
This is
ahead.
the flow I was going to mention. So the first thing you have to do really is have mobile threat defense activated for that device. And phishing content protection is, of course, a feature that you can enable once you have mobile threat defense activated. So whenever we have PCP enabled for a device, the first thing that device will do is that Intelligent Hub will fetch the configuration for that device from the mobile threat defense tenant and push that information to VMware Tunnel. So now that Tunnel has that information, anytime there is a domain request from a text message or for email or a browser, Tunnel will get that request and pass it over to the lookout network to validate if that domain is indeed valid or if it's malicious. And then the lookout network will inform the device via our Workspace ONE CNS network. So we're going to send a notification to the device with the result. If the domain is indeed malicious, we're going to inform Intelligent Hub. Intelligent Hub will block access to that content and will send actually present a notification to the user in the Hub app informing the reason that request was blocked. But if the domain is indeed valid, we'll allow the user to access that content. So that's the flow here. And since we're already touching that point, we also added in the next slide here the mobile threat defense flow as well. So basically, when you have mobile threat defense, the product activated integrated with your Workspace UEM tenant for the first time, what will happen is that UEM and mobile threat defense will synchronize the devices, the device inventory that you have in UEM, and also it will do a tag synchronization. And we're going to see it further here in the presentation, but we use device tags, Workspace ONE UEM device tags within mobile threat defense. So mobile threat defense can inform UEM. You can see in your Workspace ONE UEM console the security status of your mobile device fleet. If they are secured, if they have MTD activated, if they are indeed, they have a threat and severity of the threat. So the first thing that will happen is this device inventory and synchronization. And then once mobile threat defense finds which devices need to have mobile threat defense activated, it will start communicating with Intelligent Hub on those devices. And there will be a bidirectional replication here. Sorry, I should say communication here, where whenever there's a threat identified, Intelligent Hub will notify not only the user, but also your tenant, it will show up in your console that that device indeed has a threat present. And then you can either the user can take local actions, of course, we provide recommendations. In this case, is log off of that network. But also if you use exclusion lists in Workspace ONE, you can actually automate some actions here. For example, we're going to show later how to do that as a best practice, but you could, for example, create smart groups that will remove corporate profiles like ActiveSync profile, for example, or a corporate app like Boxer from a device that is has a threat on it. And optionally, you can also integrate Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense with Workspace ONE Intelligence. If you are using a Workspace ONE Intelligence with our Zero Trust network, for example, if you have Workspace ONE Intelligence integrated with ServiceNow for the automation of instance, opening of instance, or if you're integrated with text message solutions or message solutions, should say, like Teams or Slack, you could actually integrate mobile defense with Workspace ONE Intelligence for automation of those whenever there's a threat on a device.
So before we go forward, I want to answer some of the questions that have come up in chat live. So first one, kind of going back to that BYOD corporate Android use case. So dual mode for dual enrollment can kind of go two panes of glass, right? You can do a BYOD methodology or a corporate owned. So for corporate owned, personally enabled, all that really means is it's a container. So all of the corporate data will sit in a container and the end user can use the device otherwise outside of that container. But that'll apply to both scenarios. So if it's a BYOD device, and I see a lot of BYOD use cases coming up, all that we touch from a Workspace ONE perspective is corporate data, not personal data. On that note, one of the questions that came up was around internet traffic and how that flows. I'm assuming through tunnel, because I think it came in whenever we were talking about that. So I do think that's dependent on how environments are set up, but traditionally in a best practice use case, traffic does and can flow through corporate internet, but based on your own rules, right? So setting up firewalls so that there's a DMZ in place, and then also using tunnel for those allow and deny lists. Another question that came in is if the user doesn't choose to install the tunnel app, like on a BYO device, you can start doing compliance limitations, right? So you can say, you're only able to access this corporate data or whatever you designate, right? From an organization level, you can say, unable to access unless this, right? Or oftentimes if a device goes out of compliance, you can say, action 1, email end user, if not rectified, then, create support ticket, blah, blah, right? To put those policies in place. Next question was, if you already have an EDR app pushed to the devices and monitored from that console, Falcon for mobile, what advantages would MTD offer in that case, other than a single hub pane? John, Leo, I'm not sure if you have anything to add there from an advantage perspective and how we integrate, but I think that those are just additionals.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
Kelby, I did provide a response in the chat for the webinar related to the CrowdStrike.
Got it.
CrowdStrike is definitely more of a EDR focused solution, where mobile threat defense is more mobile specific when it comes to applications. So yeah, hopefully the response in the chat's
Perfect.
sufficient enough, but happy to provide additional information if need be.
Appreciate that. And then last one, just so that it's live, we use tags in Workspace ONE to define the location of a device. Wouldn't the MTD tags affect our reporting using those fields? No, it's just additional tags to be associated with those devices. So MTD activated, pending, etc. I know I ran through those really quick. I just wanted to be cognizant of time, but if any, Leo, Spencer, John, you have anything to add to any of those questions, or if there's any follow-ups, please, keep them coming. This is what this forum is for. Otherwise, we'll continue with the demos.
Thank you, Gilby. Thank you, John. So next year, we provided some demos for to show to you the product in action. And after that, we're going to go over the more technical side of the presentation, where I'll be going over the integration between MTD and UEM. For those of you that integrate a Workspace ONE Access with UEM, for example, you know that there's some configuration you have to do in both consoles, and that's what we'll be showing here soon. But the first demo here, it's I should have renamed it a machine limiter attack, but this is what's happening here is that this user, for some reason, decided it would be a good idea to install a rogue VPN app on his device. And once he toggles that VPN on, mobile threat defense noticed that there is indeed a machine limiter attack happening here, where a rogue certificate is being presented to this device. So the content could be read and no longer be safely encrypted. Mobile threat defense informs the user of a notification of that, and the user wisely decides here to log off of that VPN. And soon after that happens, mobile threat defense informs the user that the issue has been resolved. Of course, that information would also have been sent by Mobile Threat Defense to the tenant, the Mobile Threat Defense tenant. So admins would also the security admin for those devices also be notified of what happened there. So just a quick example of a machine in the middle attack. The next one we have here is a phishing and content threat protection demo where this user gets to his office and open his mailbox, and he finds that there's a message from his friend Michael suggesting this stock exchange website for him to take a look. The user decides to click on that link to look to find more about that website, but of course, that is indeed a malicious website. So Mobile Threat Defense blocks that access and informs the user why. In this case, it was flagged because it's malicious to the user. So after that, this user decides to take a look at his messaging, and there is also a message from Michael informing him of a lottery website that it's interesting. So the user decided to take a look at this lottery website, but this is denied content by the organization, and of course, the access is blocked as well. And there's several categories of this such action in the tool. You can block, for example, gaming, gambling, adult content, violence. If your organization can decide whether or not you want to block those type of contents. And of course, we present here in Intelligent Hub the last 30 days history of the user's attempts, right? What has been flagged as phishing, what has been flagged as malicious. So the user himself can take a look and see what has happened in the past 30 days. You might, and this is the status of the tunnel showing that PCP is connected. That's all it shows on the app. This next demo here, and this the last one before we go into more the technical side of the presentation. It's a malicious app. So this user side
Sounds like
loaded.
you may have lost Leo.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Now we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Looks I'm having some audio issues here, but so what was demonstrated here was that this user side loaded 2 apps into this iPad, and of course there are no signed apps, and Mobile Threat Defense flagged that as an issue, and because of that, asked the users to remove those apps. John, Kelby, can you just act that you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you. Do you mind just playing the video one more time? I'm not sure if we caught it.
Absolutely. So basically, let's play here. Yeah, we saw these 2 apps were side loaded, and because of that they're no signed apps, right? So App Store is not aware of that. This specific tenant classifies that as a low risk, and because of that, it asks the user to remove them. And this is a specific case that I mentioned. You could potentially also use Workspace OEM to using exclusions lists to actually also perform a task in removing Boxer, for example, from the device if there was Boxer there, or remove a corporate profile and not wait for the user to take action if you prefer to do so. And the last demo here, which is pretty quick, is just so you guys can take a look on how is the look and feel of the console, the Mobile Threat Defense console, the branding, and the tabs that it provides. You can see all the issues that are happening on the environment, your device fleet there, what apps are available on those devices, I should say, what kind of protections you have set up right now. And again, all the information regarding that specific device also goes to the Intelligent Hub notifications. So the local user also has a very good understanding of what's happening on his or her device. So let me just break here for a moment. Are there other questions that we are required to answer live, Kelby or Spencer?
Yep, there's one in the chat. Sites that are flagged on any given device, are they only viewable through the Hub app on the device, or is that information available through the Workspace ONE console?
Depends on the type of classification. As John mentioned before, there were 4 classification types. If it's phishing or malicious content, it does show on the console, the website that the link that the user tried to access. If it's for example, a content denial because it's gambling or another content your company decided to block, that is not shown on the console for privacy issues. Company can actually request that to be changed. There's a feature flag VMware can activate, but by default, content that's been blocked because of the category is not shown in the console. Anything you'd like to add there, John?
No, you nailed it when it comes to the phishing and malicious websites, and the details are all logged in the console, like you mentioned, including timestamps, dwell time, things like that, along with a kind of a snapshot of the device, location of the device when that occurred, things like that, just so yeah, if some sort of trend is picked up internally by the team or by security, you can kind of correlate all that data together to figure out who's being targeted, and you know, then determine your response there of how you want to address it. So yeah, you were correct.
Thank you for adding that, John. So we're gonna go over here. I already jumped the slide here, but we're gonna go over the steps to integrate the mobile threat defense with UEM. And the first step that you could do, and this is optional, but you could create an organization group, a child OG, where these devices will be located, the devices that are supposed to be protected by MTD. In case you don't want to activate all your fleet at once, you could potentially pick a new organization group and set up MTD to use that OG. And then when you start enrolling devices in that OG, they will be activated, or moving devices to that OG, they're gonna get MTD activated on them. So optional step, but recommended. The next step you would have to do is create a smart group to point to that specific OG. And the reason for that is, as you're gonna see in the further slides here, mobile threat defense and UEM, they communicate with one another via API commands, and there is not a way for MTD to map or to see a specific OG. What we can do is see smart groups. So we create a smart group here that will point to the OG where the devices reside. The devices will have MTD activated, and that's what you're gonna see later on. If you see that name on the left, devices in MTD OG, you're gonna see that smart group in the next few slides here when you look into the MTD console. So the next step here is an optional one. You can create actually multiple OGs if you'd like. For example, if you like to have different security postures for your devices. For example, if you want to set up different policies, what you are flagging as high risk, medium risks, and low risks, and have them different between clinical devices from your active devices, for example. There is this feature. There's this feature in MTD called device policy group. That's where you set up what's defined as a high risk, what's a low risk, what's a medium risk, what you're protecting for. You can actually enable or disable policies, and you can pretty much use the default one that comes already available in the product, or you can create specific device policy groups. And if you want to have different policy groups for different devices, you can absolutely do that. Just create different OGs here. And there's something called an activation code that we're gonna see later on that will link that device policy to that specific device group. So option step, you can create actually multiple device policies, but you can very well just keep up with one. And then, as we discussed, the use of tags. I'm not going to go over every single one here because I'll do that when I show you guys how to what to do on the mobile threat defense console. But you need to go into the OG you created, and create those tags to allow MTD to inform UEM to synchronize the status, the threat status on that device. So those are the tags. If you're looking, and by the way, I should have mentioned that all this is documented in both text zone and VMware docs. So if you want to read further on this, get more information on any of those steps, you absolutely can. This is readily available. And if you look in those documentations, these are the tags that we recommend. And so because they're going to be using the MTD console. The next step you're going to perform, and there are not many more left over, is the creation of a custom role for a custom admin role for mobile threat defense to communicate with Workspace ONE OEM. You do not need to provide to MTD all the privileges to access, all the admin privileges to access the OEM console. You can very well create a custom admin profile or admin role, I should say, and allow only what's required by MTD and nothing else. What in this on the right side of the slide in this blue box, these are the privileges required by MTD. So you create this custom role in the UEM console, and the natural next step would be to create a admin user based on that custom role. So we go and create that user belonging to the OG that you created in the first step. And just before you click save on when you create the admin user, a recommended best practice is to use certificate authentication instead of basic authentication. You can use basic authentication. The MTD console does have a field where you can put the admin username and password, but we recommend certificate authentication. And the way to do that is in the last step here of creating the admin user. You pick authentication as certificates. You type a password for that certificate. At that point, UEM will allow you to generate the certificate, and click on that hyperlink. The certificate will be generated. At that point, you have to retype the password you used when you create the certificate to export it. And once you export that to your local drive, you click on save. Now you have a certificate for that admin user that you're going to be using in the next few steps when you set up the other side of the integration in mobile threat defense. And the last step in UEM is to make sure that you have REST API enabled. Most likely it is on your tenant. If it's not, you just click on override and press the toggle there, the button to enable it. And then you want to create an admin service for MTD, so MTD can communicate to UEM via API commands. You want to label it something that reminds of what's used for. In this case, I labeled Workspace ONE MTD, and then there will be a key, a hash that you're gonna copy and save it in your text file of text editor of choice, I should say. And you want to keep it safe because you're gonna be using later on the MTD side, as well as that REST API URL. You probably want to take the chance that you have it already available there, copy it, because you're also gonna be using on the MTD console. And at this point, we are done on the UEM side. We will go to the MTD console. And before we start with the integration, I just bring this point again here. If you want to create a custom device policy, that I recommend doing that before you start with the MTD integration with UEM, because the integration will ask what device policy you want to use. You can, again, very well use the default one. If you want to create a personal one, custom one, you create it, enable all the policies that you want, you classify the risk level, save it, and at that point, you can start the integration with UEM. So you go into integrations on the MTD console, the Workspace ONE tile will be there. You click on that tile, that will bring you to this first page where you're gonna label that connection, and then the very next box is where you're gonna put that API URL that you saw in the REST API screen with page within Workspace OEM. You're gonna paste it here, and the API token is gonna be that REST API service you created. Just copy that hash and paste it here. When it comes to authentication, as I mentioned, you can very well go basic and just type the admin username and password. If you're gonna go with certificate, you select certificate here, and then you just upload that certificate you downloaded from the UM console. When you create that admin user, and you type the password that you use when you create that certificate. And at this point, the console should be communicating with one another. And how do you know that? Because the very next step is in MTD is to enable device enrollment, meaning every time a device is enrolled Workspace ONE, MTD will be activated on it. And you have to pick the smart group that those devices reside. And remember, when I create the smart group in UEM called devices MTDOG, here you pick it. So it means that Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense was able to communicate with UEM and get the list of smart groups in that tenant. The minimum amount of time you can ask Mobile Threat Defense to look for new devices in the inventory is 5 minutes. And then I also recommend that every time that you want to enroll a device, you probably want to turn that on for Mobile Threat Defense to be deactivated, for that entry to be actually removed from Mobile Threat Defense, since the device is no longer enrolled in your UEM tenant. So from here, we're going to use the tags that we created in UEM. So basically, you want to turn on device synchronization with UEM, and then there are 3 main categories: device, connection, and risk status. And so here's where you're going to use those tags. For example, when the device gets first activated, you're going to see the tag next to the device saying MDM activated. And for some reason, if the device was already enrolled and you enable MTD afterwards in that OG, it might show on pending until hub loads on that, opens on that device to finish the activation. And deactivated will be in a situation where somehow the user decided to remove the admin remove the MTD from the MTD console. So MTD informs the UEM that device no longer has the MTD enabled on it. And then connection status, if so for some reason the device is not communicating with MTD, Remote Threat Defense tenant, at first we show it disconnected, and eventually going to show it as unreachable if it takes too long to communicate with the cloud, the Mobile Threat Defense cloud. And then it comes to risks. These are the classifications that we recommend. Threats present means that there's a risk that we recognize, but there's no risk level assessed linked to that threat. And then there are 3 risk levels: low, medium, and high. And then, of course, there is MTD secured, meaning that if a device at one point had a threat, but the threat has been resolved, we're going to flag that using a tag, so we can see UEM that that device is no longer a threat on it. All right. And this is the last step on the integration. You want to add an email address here. So whenever if there's any error in the connector, in the connection between MTD and UEM, this email account is going to receive an email informing of that. And also, this is when I mentioned the device policy group that that's the group manager here. That's where you pick the policy group you created with all your risk levels and policies that you have enabled. You can use the default one again, or you can create a custom one for your devices. So the last step you want to do, you want to go in devices MTD and device policy groups and get that enrollment code, and copy that enrollment code, and go back to the UEM console. And you're gonna push that activation code via the SDK settings of Intelligent Hub. So you go into settings, apps, settings and policies, and then settings again. And there's a custom settings field where you're going to put a JSON, this JSON code you see here, and in that you're going to replace those access by your activation code, your Roman code, I should say. And that's how you can have different device policy groups, and basically you would have different Roman codes that you're gonna add to different OGs in Workspace ONE. This goes back to that optional step when I mentioned you can have different device policy postures based on different OGs. You tie that to MTD using the Roman code. And at that point, you have MTD activated. This is for the phishing content protection feature within MTD. You turn it on in your integration. The deployment type, you're going to pick secure DNS. That is the communication, the deployment type for Intelligent Hub. On-device VPN was just like John mentioned, initially when we had phishing content protection did require the lookout agent. That was the deployment type, but now that is all integrated in Hub. Secure DNS is the method of deployment. And then here in this toggle, that's where the next one, making phishing content protection mandatory. That's where you decide whether or not the user has the option of going to Hub and turning off phishing and content protection. So if you turn this feature on, there won't be a toggle in Intelligent Hub for the users to do so. And that will enable phishing and content protection for you on your device fleet. So that's pretty much it. Oh, I should, one last step for PCP, of course, you need to push tunnel to the devices, both Android and iOS. For Android, all you have to do is just push the app. As I mentioned, the VPN interface will be created in Android device just to capture that traffic and that DNS resolution traffic and send to Lookout Network. For iOS, you need to set up a DNS proxy profile. And the way you do that, you just create an iOS profile like you've been doing UVM for a long time. And then you pick a custom settings as the payload. And then there's a XML code that you paste here. It's always the same. It's a static code. I know it's not complete here. It's cropped, but this is available in TechZone as well as in VMware Docs. In the integration document of MTD, you can copy that XML, paste in your custom settings, and that will activate a tunnel for phishing content protection on iOS. And this is an optional step. And I know that we're getting to the top of the hour here, but I promise that we just finish in time. We just land the plane. If you want to integrate intelligence, Workspace intelligence with mobile threat detection, that's the connector you would pick. Lookout will be the connector. You just need to generate an application key and use that to enable your Lookout connector in intelligence. So a couple of best practice. That's how you would set up the smart groups to remove corporate applications, corporate profiles from devices that have a threat on them. You just create an excluded group, and you create a smart group. In this case, we create a smart group called All Risk Devices, and we flag all those tags, all the risk tags, and excluding them from this smart group. So whenever we push, for example, I think the next example talks about Boxer. Yeah. So you're pushing Boxer and with that exclusion list. So whenever a device gets tagged with a risk on UVM, it will be removed from that assignment and Box will be removed from that device. So with that, we are getting to the end here of the presentation. So just to reiterate, what we've seen today here with mobile threat defense and Intelligent Hub is just a simplified way of deploy a security solution in your environment, basically because it's using just the same agent for UVM as well as your device security, and activation is simplified. Because of that, Intelligent Hub is already existing on those devices. they're working together between the two solutions, allow you to take automated remediations using the tags and the smart groups, as we mentioned. And it's just we believe that the two solutions together provide an unmatched visibility that the competition cannot provide at this time. Spencer, Kelby, John, any last comments before we close here?
No last comments for me. If anybody that has joined has any questions, of course, let us know. If Spencer or myself don't happen to be a representative for you on the VMware side, feel free to reach out to us. I'll put my email in the chat and we can loop you in with somebody that is.
Yep, couldn't agree more with Kelby. Thanks you guys so much for attending. I really appreciate you guys coming on, spending the lunch with us. And if you need anything or have any questions at all, feel free to email me or Kelby, and we'll be able to get you in touch with the right person if we are not. So again, thanks so much, and I'll hand it over to Leo and John for closing.
Yeah, no, my last comments are thank you all for taking the time to hop on. Yeah, definitely reach out to us. We're happy to provide more in-depth demos of mobile threat defense. As you probably saw through the steps that Leo went through, deployment is super simple. So POCs, free POCs are available. And from my experience for the kickoff call, it usually takes no more than an hour to get mobile threat defense activated and pushed out across your test devices. So it's a very simple thing to test out. So just let us know and we'd be happy to assist with that piece as well. So Leo.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Spencer and Kelby. And so just closing here, and I promise you this is a valid QR code. This is not a phishing attempt, but this is the link. You can use this link here to go into TechZone and know more about the product. Adriano created several very interesting videos talking more about the solution with different demos. So I highly recommend you to take a look. It has been a pleasure providing this content to you today. Thank you so much for joining. Let us know if you have any further questions, and have a great week, and thank you very much.